The Mig-25 RBF is a single-seat supersonic reconnaissance bomber version of the Mig-25 fighter interceptor. It has the KUB-3M Cub 3M close-range electronics intelligence system for surveillance and monitoring of radio fields, so fundamentally looking at radar and other emissions. The station has the capability to determine the type, function and location of hostile radio wave emitters, register the data required and downlink it to ground facilities. An experimental model of this recon-bomber with the Cub 3 short-range ELINT station, the Mig-25R, was assembled in summer of 1970 and tested officially for production in 71 to 73. The Mig-25 RBK was a mass-produced production variant 73 to 80, and this led on to the RBF. It should be noticed that this aircraft was also the bomber version of the Mig-25, carrying freefall bombs, and it was used by Algeria, Iraq, Libya, Syria, India and Bulgaria. So really we're looking at here is the electronics recce version of the Mig-25, which followed on from the camera equipped version. Really using the same platform, the same engines, with the same very high speed performance. So this is the unboxing video for the ICM Mig-25 RBF ahead of the Group Build Group's reconnaissance group build. Bought this kit over a year ago now from Hannon's in London. It was one of those nice finds there. So let's see what we get. I do like boxes that are a little bit more to them, so you've got more than just the thing box lid between you and the kit. So we'll start off with having a look at the parts. Now, all in one bag, apart from the clear sprues. We'll pop them to one side for a minute, and we'll take a look at what we get. This is quite specifically the reconnaissance components. So you've got the nose, a slightly longer nose actually, with the camera bays. You've got the camera bays there with the recessed apertures for the to put the lenses in. This is I think there were a few other changes as well on the RBF version, and so these are the parts that will be like non-standard to the other Mig-25 variants, apart from the two-seater. I can open this up here. Very simple glazing. Small canopy, nicely defined as well, so that'll take the masking pretty easily, and all those little, I believe the camera, not necessarily lenses, but certainly the aperture glass. So I'll probably have to put something dark paint behind those and then pop them in. It's nice simple glazing. I think that's the thing about the Mig-25. With the speed it's going, you don't really want to have too much by way of glazing. In doing my background reading for this, pilots would state that the friction from the air was so intense they would burn their fingers on the canopy framing. Just wondering why they would be touching that without their gloves, but anyway. So this is a recent kit, so it's going to have finely recessed panel lines, some plastic flow marks, but that'll easily disappear under the painting, and you can see and feel here Nice recessing on here on the lower surfaces. Something I do like about this kit, those of you who follow my builds, I have a soft spot for drop tanks, and this is a lovely big two-piece drop tank to hang underneath, which is definitely going to have to be on that model. These panel lines from the other builds I've seen will take washes well, but what I'm slightly concerned about is you can see a tad of granularity on this plastic. Not as bad as some Zvezda kits by any stretch of the imagination, but before you go anywhere near a wash with this, you need to put a really good coat of something like Johnson's Clear or a gloss finish, because what you don't want is any washes actually grabbing the surface. It doesn't feel textured by much, but it's discernible. Under the light it's definitely discernible, so this needs a good gloss finish before applying a wash. Other details here, the fuselage sides, the tail surfaces, two-piece and extending down to the sides of the engine, and the mounts for horizontal stabilizers. Those are two-piece. Yes. Something that is evidence on this kit, which I like, particularly for jets, is that they do include plenty of engine trunking, so you can look down inside it. No, the wheels aren't weighted, which is a little bit disappointing, but I mean they'd be under pretty high pressures anyway, so they need maybe a slight touch to weight them slightly. More of the detailed parts, the seats, landing gear struts. It's nice to see they've done these complex landing gear struts as sort of one piece. Main undercarriage, main wheels, right big old affairs. Again, I mean the moulding is beautiful on these. Just seems to me they should be weighted, but minor issue. Sand a bit on them. I'm sure resin alternatives have a bit of a bulge on them, which is nice. I think I can't, looking at this kit from just a general model point of view, I can't fault it in terms of the level of detail. Locations for the pylons, bearing in mind on this version those pylons were faired over, so they do include the pieces for that. And quick look at the decal sheet. So you've got a generic Stencils Decal sheet, which I will probably have a great deal of fun with. It's great to see it, and I think the only way you can go about applying something like this is step by step. Just pick a line at a time and work through them. It's going to take quite a lot of decaling. Now, I haven't zoomed in to see if the text is actually readable, and honestly, why worry? It'll be nice to put them on there. And I like that they've included the aircraft name and designation. So if you ever do this on a display stand, on a base, you can always use that on the on your labeling, and I think that's a nice touch. I do like to see that on decals. This is, and I think this would be a fairly oh no, because it's printed it RBF, and this is the actual main aircraft markings. Decals for the instrument panel, the bolt numbers for the various options, and the good old red stars and some suitable patriotic or commemorative markings as well. Decals look quite glossy. I don't know who they're printed by. It may even be printed directly by ICM. I find this with manufacturers like these European manufacturers, they do tend to have quite small, crowded decal sheets, which I'm not a huge fan of, but they're okay for what they are. They're not like the big, expansive sheets you get with, say, Italieri. Okay, parts fallen off the sprue, so that's got to go carefully back in the box. Let's see. nothing here that gives me cause for concern or confusion or anything else, to be honest. Not that I can see. And if there are fit issues, that's fine. Now, with the fine scribing, if there's filling and sanding, it'll be very easy to lose the detail. So, and in fact, they've included some of the rivet detail as well, makes reinstating that even trickier. So I really want to keep the filling and sanding on this to a bare minimum. So let's take a look at what the instructions give us. So, looking here, we have a bit of background, good color call out. This really needs sort of transferring to the instructions themselves. Go through the colors and write as you follow through it what they are, and put together your palette. So I'll be going through that lot and preparing my palette tray here. Parts call outs, indication of what you aren't or are using for this particular kit. It appears that you won't be using those lenses. Okay, I stand corrected. Starting off as always with the cockpit, and then moving on to the wheel well and the installation of the leg. I really don't know why model companies put this in at this early stage as this part, so you don't want your undercarriage legs poking out during the early phase of your build because they're going to get broken off. So always worries me a little bit why the manufacturers do this kind of thing at an early stage. The seat and cockpit floor, now this is quite interesting that you're touching the base of the seat, then the instrument panel, and building up the back of the seat, and then attaching that. So the sequence seems a little bit odd, but if it goes together, it goes together, and if it looks right, it looks right. And then you get to this stage, and you've got your cockpit here. Then for some reason, it's asking you to put this sub-assembly, the repeat of the seat, here. I'm just wondering what on earth is going on there. It doesn't call on you to make this twice. Maybe that was a hangover somewhere from the two-seater instructions. I don't know. But I do find that a little bit confusing why that's included. But anyway. Honestly, yeah, okay. No, you can follow this through, fair enough. I'm not saying... The instructions are a little bit confusing in places, but not horrendously so. Just some of the reasoning behind them seems a little bit odd to me. Intake detail is nice. And you've got quite a lot of trunking coming together here. As I said, that is something I do like. Plenty of the intakes leading up. Those are sub-assemblies there leading up to the first stage compressor fans, which that's nice to see, and it adds something to the depth. I will leave the intake covers off this one because you want to be able, I'd like to be able to peer down the air intakes to those massive turbines. Some internal structural as well. I think really because it's a big boxy thing, you need to brace it a little bit. And also something for the aft trunks, the exhaust assemblies to mount onto as well. Again, a good boxy aircraft structure. With joints like that, I think you can deal with the seams better than you can on other aircraft structures. They're looseable, they can be worked through with effective use of adhesive and minimum on the filler, I hope. The tail surfaces, this is also very much like the construction used on the Condor kit, where I built the two-seater with the rudder fins and the lower fuselage side and the ventral fins as one piece assembly joining onto the side. It's interesting to see that carried over here. Aft parachute container, and probably contains some electronics as well. Then onto the subject specific camera pods. So I say we don't use those lenses, ironically, because they were mounted behind a different feature. So how those are painted up will have to be interesting to see. Nice, interesting touch there with separate flaps. Don't ever think I've seen those hanging down on past Cup Mig-25s, but again, that's why we build up our reference libraries. Then trundling along, finally touching the wheels, and that big old two-piece drop tank, and then the final parts of the canopy. I can see that being attached much earlier in the build sequence. Probably will build it with a canopy closed. I was thinking maybe I should have ordered a separate pilot figure for this, which would be nice. Not too worried. Of course, option to display it open or closed. The guidelines for all the stencils, so that's something you follow through and you just work your way down over a good few evenings. Definitely one I want to dress up, and it's nice that they don't that they actually show the stencil as well, not just an arrow pointing to where it goes, which does help, so you can see the alignment a bit more and all that side of it. Now I'm going to be boring and do the grey scheme, because that's how I think MIGs look well. You can see the painting instructions there for those camera panels, which it states in B, which is dark grey. Okay, that's what it is. That's what it is. So nice grey and the metallics towards the aft. So a lot to like about this. One to certainly enjoy diving into. I have some additional reference material for this as well, which I did put here somewhere, which is this, and we'll be referring to that throughout this build as well. So that's the unboxing, and next video will be the build.